is the ability to take in information, store it, and recall it at a later time. In psychology, memory is broken into 3 stages: encoding, storage, and retrieval. Echoic memory is a part of sensory memory and refers to auditory memories. The sensory memory that takes into account sounds that you've just encountered is a form of this memory type. When it comes to auditory memory, we cannot scan over the time the same information several times. For example, when we are listening to the radio, we cannot hear the exact word, phrase, or statement again once the time has passed. Echoic memory is therefore defined as being the short-term sensory memory of auditory stimuli. Visual and auditory memories are not long-term memories, so they are temporary and fade quickly compared to other types of memories.
The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Did you take the trash out yet?
What? No, I haven't.
Okay.
Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
In this example of echoic memory, the what phenomenon is shown. For example, you might be reading and your friend walks up and says something to you. You sit there for a second or two and then say, "What? Oh yes, I'm ready to eat now." You didn't really process the statement from the other person as he or she said it. You heard it, but your brain didn't interpret it immediately. Instead, it took several seconds for you to realize that 1, something was said, 2, it might have been important, and 3, you'd better try to remember what it was. If you realize all this within about 4 seconds, you will more than likely be able to hear an echo of the statement in your head, a kind of instant replay. What is iconic memory? Memory for visual stimuli is referred to as iconic memory, which can be defined as a very brief sensory memory of some visual stimuli that occur in the form of mental pictures. For example, if I ask you to look at a picture and then close your eyes and try to see the picture, what can you see in your mind's eye? It is an iconic memory of the image in the picture. Typically, iconic memories are stored for slightly shorter periods of time than echoic memories. Please be aware that both echoic and iconic memories are sensory memories, not types of long-term memory, and thus are very temporary and fade quickly.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here I come. Hide and seek. Oh my God.
In the example for iconic memory, 2 people are playing hide and seek. One of them is hiding and they hear the other person walk in. Then they jump out and they scare them. Then they go back to their hiding spot. The image of them jumping out is now an iconic memory in the mind of the person who was scared. What is short-term memory? Short-term memory is a capacity for holding but not manipulating a small amount of information in mind in an active, readily available state for a short period of time. For example, short-term memory can be used to remember a phone number that has just been recited. The duration of short-term memory is believed to be in the order of seconds. A commonly cited capacity of items to remember is the magical number 7, plus or minus. Short-term memory acts as a kind of scratch pad for temporary recall of the information which is being processed at any point in time, and has been referred to as the brain's post-it note. It can be thought of as the ability to remember and possess information at the same time. It holds a small amount of information, typically around 7 items or even less, in mind in an active, readily available state for a short period of time, typically from 10 to 15 seconds, or sometimes up to a minute. For this experiment, I explained that we would be testing their short-term memory. I also told her that I was not a professional. For the first trial of the experiment, she had 2 minutes to memorize 25 words. Note that the words were in categories such as animals, colors, school, and etc. For the second part of the first trial, right after memorizing the words, I gave her a paper to write down as many words as she could remember. Once again, she only had 2 minutes. For the second trial, she once again tried to remember as many words as she could in 2 minutes. The only difference is this time, instead of words being in similar categories, they were all very different. As soon as she saw the new set of words, she stated how harder these were going to be able to remember. This time around, when she had to write down the words she could remember, she had greater difficulty remembering the words, and she could not write down or recall half as many words from the first trial.
So I just took the short-term memory test. The first trial was everything in categories and sections. So the first was like animals and colors and like school items. And then the second trial was all randomized and not in categories. And I noticed that when the first trial that was in categories, I scored way better because everything was like in place and it was easy for my short-term memory to like recuperate and recall when I took the test. But then the second trial, everything was like randomized and I had to think more about it. And like the 2 minutes of the test went faster. Like when it was in categories, I like got it real quickly. But in the second trial, I was like struggling more, and I didn't score as well in the second trial. And so overall, I would say that when I want to study, I would put things in like sections and categories because that's my short-term memory is better that way. And so this made me realize that with my different subjects I'm taking class, that I'll like study in each section of my class and hopefully I can do good on the exams.
With retrograde amnesia, memory loss usually involves facts rather than skills. For example, someone might forget whether or not they own a car, what type it is, and when they bought it, but they will still know how to drive. In this example, I showed his ability to play the piano. I did this because with retrograde amnesia, it affects remembering facts versus skills. I use this because if someone suffers from an accident or do have retrograde amnesia, if before it happened they knew how to play piano, then they would still be able to play. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive mental deterioration that can occur in middle or old age due to generalized decay of the brain. It is irreversible, progressive, and it slowly destroys your memory and thinking skills, and it eventually affects your daily tasks.
Hey Grandma. Hello, who are you?
I'm your grandson.
I don't have no grandson.
Well, anyway, I came to drop off this blanket. It was your childhood blanket, you said, and you gave it to me like a long time ago.
No, that doesn't look familiar to me. I don't know what that is.
It's your childhood blanket. You gave it to me.
No, mine wasn't that blanket. It was a different blanket, and I don't know who you are. So, nurse.
In this example, a grandmother in her 80s is shown a blanket that she has had since her childhood. Here, she cannot remember it. It is important to understand how Alzheimer's affects people because more than 5 million Americans and 5.8 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease in 2020.